ready for some football. I don't know about you. Who else could it be but your man Lou? Yeah.
The LouieTeeNetwork is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description.
Who else could it be but me? Your man, your man Louie T. Welcome to the Thursday Night Football Overtime. Seahawks get the win 6-3 over the Chicago Bears. Bears dropped to 4-12 on the season. Seahawks improved to 9-7 and keep their playoff hopes alive. They need Arizona to win on Saturday night when they will be on the road at LA. So that's a big game on Saturday. 3 games on Saturday, all with playoff implications, but none bigger than that one on Saturday night. Rams hosting the Cardinals. So the reason I was so weak coming in, obviously, I enjoy the demise of this Chicago Bears team. Watching this game tonight was a lesson. Let this be a lesson to all fan bases everywhere. It does not pay to be an ass of a fan base for no reason. Doesn't pay. And karma is a sumbitch. I always tell y'all. And she don't miss. She don't miss. And nobody deserves what the Bears fans are getting more than the Bears fans. Nobody. They asked for this, and they're getting what they asked for with their behavior. But in the comment section, somebody was talking to John, and they said, somebody said, John, your team is butt. and Miss P said, no, not butt, ass. We didn't see a playoff team tonight. Did anybody watching this game see a playoff team anywhere tonight? The Seahawks have regressed back to the team that we saw go on that losing streak earlier this season when we thought they would be nothing more than, you know, a middling team, right? 7-10, 8-9 at best. But they looked like they were heading for 7-10, 6-11 in the first year of Mike McDonald. And they got their life together. They won some games, and they got back into this thing. And not only did they get back into the race, you know, going on the road and beating Atlanta and beating San Francisco on the road and finding ways to win games we didn't think they were going to win. This is a team. Think about this. right? This is a team that lost at home to the New York Giants. At home. They've had some ugly losses this season, most of them coming at home. They've only lost on the road once this season, have the Seattle Seahawks. But they went to Arizona and they beat up the Cardinals. And they found ways to win some games this year where you didn't think it would be possible. But they have. But here of late, this hasn't looked anything like a playoff caliber team. We've seen some bad performances this year. I mean, obviously we had the 49ers and Rams, two Thursdays ago? But that was easily explained away by the weather. So it was a nasty weather game. It was raining for pretty much the entire first half and much of the second. And so you could explain why the conditions altered the scoring in that game. And you could explain why it was a 9-6 ball game, right? You could explain that, or whatever the score ended up being in that game. This game, however, there is no explanation for the nastiness that we just watched on both sides. On both sides. Seattle has way too much talent to be engaging in this type of warfare with a 4 and now 12 team. Yet, Geno Smith, who is almost in the lead for most passing yards in the NFL, but also just out off the lead by one of the most interceptions thrown this season, can't lead his team to a touchdown. This is the same Bears defense that on the road against San Francisco gave up 316 yards, I believe, in the first half of that ball game. 316, and they were outscored, I want to say 27-0 in the first half of that game, something along those lines. And you couldn't muster a single touchdown. And you know what's actually funny is they brought up the red zone interceptions that Geno Smith has thrown this season. He's thrown 4 of them, the most in the NFL this season. And as they're talking about it, Geno Smith drops back and throws the football to not one, but 2 Bear defenders. He couldn't have thrown it any more perfect to Tremaine Edmonds, the Bears linebacker, and he drops it. And you go, Geno, what the hell are you doing, man? What are you doing? And he says, I'm just being Geno, man. Geno. Oh, Geno. Oh, no. He's back to being that Geno again. That was a hideous decision. They got a field goal out of that because Tremaine Edmonds dropped that pick. That ultimately was the deciding factor in the game. He catches that interception. It's a 3-3 ball game. Who knows if this thing doesn't end in a tie? It was so bad. I don't know if anybody was going to score any other points than the 2 field goals that were scored. But the Seahawks got that first field goal because Tremaine Edmonds couldn't catch. We were think 4 minutes away from the end of regulation, and Caleb Williams just passed 100 yards passing in this game. I mean, Geno had 160 yards and Caleb had 122, and he needed a 4th down conversion on a crazy play. I still don't know how he completed the pass to DJ Moore to get it. Had they punted that ball like they were going to do initially, he probably doesn't exceed 100 yards passing in this game. Caleb Williams has been the most sacked quarterback in the NFL this season. And that was before this game started with 60. He was sacked 7 more times tonight. You know, the funny thing about Caleb and this Bears football team, yes, it's a dysfunctional organization. We're all aware of his circumstance and his situation. But I love how Kirk Herbstreit tried to paint this picture of, oh, poor Caleb Williams. Man, is this situation so tough on him. And it's not easy. I will admit it's not a great situation to be in. But they're like, oh, he hasn't. The Bears haven't led since week 12 against Minnesota. That's the only time they've led during this whole losing streak was once against Minnesota. They barely led against the Commanders at the very end. Very briefly, they led before the the Washington walk-off, aka the bear trap, snagged them and entrapped their season and didn't let it go. And they've only led once more this entire season. Now, it was very briefly against Minnesota. And he's making it out to be, I mean, that's a tough position to be in if you're Caleb Williams. I mean, can you imagine only having to lead once? And I'm thinking to myself, well, you act like his ass ain't a part of that shit. You act like his ass ain't part of the reason they ain't led in a goddamn football game. What are you talking about? They lost a game tonight 6-3. What do you mean? You got to feel bad for Caleb Williams. He can do something about it. What do you mean? They lost to the Patriots at home 19-3. What are you talking about? You act as if this Bears defense is awful, and the reason why they haven't led in the game is because they can't get stops defensively. This man is awful. At times, he's been awful. The play calling has been awful. His receivers have dropped passes this season. He's missed open receivers. You had a penalty. There's a hell of a play he makes early in the game for a touchdown. He's rolling to his left. He throws across his body back towards his right as he's fading left and throws a dart, an absolute dot in the end zone for a touchdown. And it's negated because of a penalty. And it was the right call. And he's made plays like that this year where you go, whoa. But for every one of those types of plays, the one he made on 4th down tonight to DJ Moore, where you go, how in the hell did he running backwards, throwing out, off balance, looking like he's just throwing it up for grabs? How in the hell did he put that football right where it needed to be for DJ Moore to catch it and get the first down? For every one of those plays, there's 3 or 4 plays where you go, oh no, Caleb. You can't miss that play. You can't take that sack. Can somebody tell me what he was doing when he ran for the first down, but decided I'm not going to go out of bounds? I'm going to take a knee by the sidelines and get hit. Can somebody explain to me what the hell he was doing? That's the same dumb shit he did against against Detroit on Thanksgiving when he got hit in the knee and got up limping. And you're like, bro, just run out of bounds. What are you doing? I can't explain some of the things that this dude does. I can't explain it. It's the simple things that he doesn't do well right now. It's not the crazy, innovative, wild running backwards, throwing the ball. Like he's mastered that. It's just the simple drop back, get it out of your hands quickly, hit this guy in stride within the timing and rhythm of the offense. That's the shit he struggles with. And that's the thing we said when he was coming out of SC was, hey, can he work within the confines and the framework of an NFL offense consistently? We know he can scramble around and make shit happen when he's off schedule and things break down. We know he can do that. He's mastered that art. But can he just stand in the pocket, see what's going on, go through his progressions, and get rid of the football? And right now, consistently, that is. And right now, the answer is no. He can't. He struggles in that department. And while some of these sacks are on his, teammates, his offensive line, running backs, tight ends, whomever, a lot of these sacks are on Caleb Williams. And like there was a blitz they had late in that game where he's got one-on-one on the outside, and there's a chance he can hit Roma Dunze. And I don't know where the hell he threw the football. Like he just dropped back and he just faded and threw a damn fadeaway jump deep ball and just said, F it. I hope it lands somewhere close to him. The shit went out of bounds by 2 yards. He never had a chance to catch it. You didn't give your guy, like when you throw a football like that, you don't give him a chance to catch you don't give a chance to get a pass interference. You don't give him a chance to catch the football. You don't give it a chance to have any success. There's just a lot fundamentally wrong with, and I say all of this, and I like in this situation, like he doesn't look that bad, like Jared Goff did in his first year. Remember how bad Jared Goff looked his first year with the St. Louis Rams? You remember that? Jeff Fisher was his coach, and we thought that this dude stunk. This is going to be one of the worst first overall picks we've ever seen. And the Rams traded up to get him, which makes it 10 times worse, right? And they fired Jeff Fisher after that first year. They hired Sean McVay, and the man looked night and day different. That's all the Bears need is a good coach. As bad as it feels right now, as bad as it looks right now, you get competent coaching in that building, and you could turn some shit around very quickly. Caleb's got a lot of work to do, but he's talented, right? But it's bad right now. It's bad. It really, truly is. But this is what happens when you fire. First of all, they probably shouldn't have brought back. And again, you know how I feel about bringing back lame duck coaches when you just drafted a quarterback. It doesn't make a ton of sense to keep a guy around that is on the hot seat when you've just drafted a quarterback. It's the worst thing you can do, because the likelihood is that guy that you're keeping around, he isn't going to get the job done. If he's had time to get it done and all he needed was a quarterback, then the team would be close, right? Like, you can say what you want about Robert Saleh. All he needed was a quarterback. Those Jets teams were close. Every year, defensively, they were really good, and they just needed a quarterback. They got Aaron Rodgers, and they thought they had a quarterback. He gets injured, and they're right back to where they were. And then when Rodgers finally got healthy, he wasn't the same guy. He wasn't the same guy. And they bent over backwards for Rodgers. They did too much acquiescing to what he wanted, bringing in guys that weren't competent, doing things to make Rodgers feel good, and it just didn't work. But all he needed was a quarterback. That wasn't the case in Chicago. They were awful every year. Every year. He saved his job with a flurry of wins at the end of last year. But Matt Eberflus was not a good head coach. He wasn't a good head coach. And he shouldn't have been in Chicago this year. But that's another story for another day. If you're a Seahawks fan, keep in mind, like, you're overachieving this year. Like this wasn't good football. But you got the youngest head coach in the NFL. You weren't expected to do a damn thing this year. You weren't. And while you have talent, Lockett is still good. Smith and Jigba, DK Metcalf is probably having the worst year of his career. Is he going to get to 1,000 yards receiving this year? It doesn't feel like it watching this team. But then again, I can't say that he's not going to make it. Let's check and see. Because Smith and Jigba has 1,089 yards, and he's your leading receiver right now. So it doesn't feel like it. DK Metcalf is not even going to be remotely close. Well, I lied. I'm looking at Tyler Lockett's numbers. DK Metcalf is at 897 receiving yard wise. If this is accurate, I gotta see if this is updated to with tonight's statistics. Let me see. Let me just check. Because sometimes ESPN be slow to update their statistics. DK Metcalf stats. So let's see. Yeah, he's at 897 this year. Okay. On 60 catches. So it doesn't feel like he's gonna he's not gonna get 70 catches. I don't think he's gonna have a 10 catch game in the final week of the season. He could, but it doesn't feel like he's gonna get to 70 catches. And it doesn't feel like he's gonna get to 1,000 yards either. That's just the way it feels. But all he needs is 103 yards. But it feels like if it's not a big catch and run of 50, 60 yards, then he's not having a real impact in the game. They're just not getting him the football. And, you know, between Metcalf, Smith and Jigba, Lockett, Fant, there's just way too much talent, you know, in terms of pass catchers for them to be this inept offensively at times. But you've overachieved. You've won 9 games this year in the first year of Mike McDonald. And I think he's a good defensive mind, right? And you could see that there was no way that Caleb Williams was going to be able to move the football consistently against the defense tonight. And you know, he realized it and he started sending pressure. Like, okay, this kid can't beat the blitz, so we're just going to blitz him and see what he does, right? Maybe he'll throw us one. And he did on the final possession. But they're not a good team, right? I mean, when you look at Seattle, they're inconsistent. We'll just say that. Talent-wise, you could argue that they might have the second best talent in the division behind the 49ers when the 49ers are fully healthy. But it's tough to really put your finger on why they don't get more out of the talent that they have. They don't really maximize the talent. It's kind of head scratching because there are weeks where you go, yo, that Seattle team right there, that's a tough team. Like, that's a tough out. Then there are weeks that you look at them like tonight and you go, that's not a playoff team. That's not a team that belongs anywhere near the postseason. And not having Kenneth Walker is a big deal. Zach Charbonnet is cool, right? But he's not Kenneth Walker III. Who are we kidding, right? So not having him is a big deal. But we watched them against Detroit earlier in the season. And yeah, they lost that game and they gave up 42 points. But they actually, you know, they were going toe-to-toe with Detroit on the road on a Monday night. And you walked away from that game saying, yo, that Seattle team is going to be tough to beat. That Seattle team right there is tough to beat. But you don't see that team enough. You don't see that team enough. So I don't really know what to make of them, but the hope is the Rams, well, I won't say put them out of their misery on Saturday night, because what's more compelling than seeing a team in Week 18, you know, have to battle it out against one another, right? Like, I'm not a massive fan of, well, in 2 separate games, if this team wins, then this team, you know, is eliminated. If this team loses, this team gets in Week 18. Well, I love a win and end situation. I love playoff football before we get to the playoffs. And we could have that set up if the Rams lose on Saturday night. So I'm kind of rooting for Arizona to beat the Rams on Saturday night to set up a situation where it's a winner takes all scenario in Week 18 between the Rams and the Seahawks. But this Seahawks team doesn't belong in the playoffs. Who are we kidding? This isn't a playoff team. The Rams with Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay and Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, that's a playoff team. Been there, done that, got the T-shirts and hats to match, and we know they can go toe-to-toe with anybody. They may not win, but they can go toe-to-toe with anybody. You know, Seattle has the ability to get in the postseason and get blown out. And the Rams, one thing we know about them, they're not gonna kowtow to anybody. So they get in and they become extremely dangerous. So we've seen this movie with Geno Smith in the playoffs before. And they gracefully bowed out to the 49ers and didn't put up much resistance in that game, right? We don't really need to see that in the playoffs. We don't need to see that. So I don't think they're one of the best 7 teams in the NFC. So we'll see what happens. But I would love nothing more than to see them in the Rams, you know, battle it out in week 18 for a spot in the postseason. But the Rams are the better team. But it's not always about who the better team is, right? So they've given themselves a chance. They handled their end of the bargain in terms of giving themselves a chance. But they put themselves in this position. Not beating Green Bay at home, not beating Minnesota at home. They put themselves in this position. So now you need help. And I'll tell you right now, the Cardinals aren't a team that you want to rely on for help in a situation where you're trying to make the playoffs. That's not a team that you should be looking to help you out, if we're being honest with one another. But we'll see what happens. The Rams have been okay at home. They haven't been great. But the Cardinals have been awful on the road. Awful on the road. Okay? So, again, this ain't the type of team you want to be looking to get you a win on the road. But it's family business, and anything can happen. And so we'll see if the Arizona Cardinals can do the Seattle Seahawks a huge solid on Saturday night, get the win, and force a Week 18 winner-takes-all divisional crown setup. And I'm really interested. Which do you guys think? I'm going to ask you guys this question because I'm fascinated with this. If it's winner takes all Sunday night, Week 18, or it's just Rams Seahawks, winner takes all, does that get the nod for the final game of the season, Sunday night, over Lions, Vikings, number 1 seed on the line, winner of the game wins the division and the number 1 seed overall in the NFC? Which one takes precedence, right? Both of those teams are going to the playoffs, right? So is there even a need to put them on that stage if there's a game that features 2 teams where one of them is going home? I think that one takes precedence over 2 teams battling it out for the number 1 seed. But whoever loses is still in the playoffs. I'd hate to have to choose between the two if I'm the NFL, because you would prefer one of those 2 games announce themselves in week 17 is not as important. That has a chance to happen if the Rams take care of the Cardinals, which I suspect they will, right? I think most of us feel like they're going to do exactly that. But if the Rams take care of business, then that game becomes a moot point. Rams have already locked up the division, and it's a wrap. But if they somehow lose to Arizona and that game is for the division and somebody's going home, somebody's going to playoffs, somebody's going home, I think they would be more compelled to put that game on Sunday night as the final game of the regular season over 2 teams battling it out for the number 1 seed and the right to call themselves NFC North champion in the toughest division we've probably ever seen in our lives thus far, with this, expansion of the games to 17. We've never seen 3 teams win 12 games in a division. We have a chance to see that if the Packers can win this week against, well, all they have to do is win one of their final 2 games. Packers are already at 11 wins. The Vikings are already at 12 wins. The Vikings are already at 13 wins, and the Lions are already at 13 wins as well, right? 13, 13, and 11. And so you got a chance to have a 15, a 14, and a 12, right? I mean, theoretically speaking, the Packers could get to 13 as well. So you could have 2 13s and a 14, or 2 13s and a 15, right? Or a 14, a 13, and a 12, or something along those lines. That's wild. We've never seen anything like it. And you could have those two teams battling it out for the right to call themselves the champion of that division. But both teams are going to the playoffs. Both teams have already locked up a playoff spot. I think they would put the Rams-Seahawks game as the final game because somebody's going home. That's a real playoff environment where the winner advances to the postseason, the loser goes home and gets nothing. But we would rather watch Vikings and Lions, right? I think we're all in agreement. We would rather watch that game as the final game on Sunday Night Football, but that's not what they would do, I don't think. Anyway, I digress. Let's go ahead and let's go inside the odds, brought to you by BetUS. We'll come back on the other side of that and get to the comment section and see what you guys are talking about.
Inside the odds.
Looking for a new book this year. BetUS has you covered. Fastest payouts in the industry. Get back up to 10% on your net losses twice a year as long as you've been active within the last 6 months. And here's the kicker. If you have never used BetUS before, here's an opportunity for you to maximize using BetUS as your book by using the promo code YouTube150. You'll have a chance to get 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit up to $2,000 and 125% sign-up bonus on your next 2 deposits up to $2,000 when you use the promo code YouTube150. Remember, bet responsibly. Do not bet more than you can afford to lose, and do not chase your losses. It is a very dangerous thing to do. So tonight's game, Seahawks went off as a 4.5-point favorite, according to the BetUS site. The numbers that you see in front of you are from the BetUS website. Check it out, peruse around. Also, check out their prop builder. You can do some pretty interesting stuff with that as well. Lots of good features there, lots of good prop bets, lots of things at your fingertips over on that site. And obviously, the point spread was Seahawks 4.5, but they did not cover that, clearly. They did win the game. The over-under total, 41.5, feels laughable right now in a 6-3 ball game where 9 total points were scored. So clearly, the under was the way to go there. I don't know if I saw 41 points being scored between the two teams, but I definitely didn't see less than 10 being scored between the two teams combined. I will say that. I was thinking somewhere along the lines of, 20-10, 23-10, 20-13, something along those lines. Somewhere in there, 26-10. Like, I never did I think we'd be, without a touchdown on both sides here. That was just ridiculous. But, you get these type of games every now and again in the NFL. Let me just say this, too. The NFL has been on a wicked, nasty streak here of late. Remember, we had a really nice streak where every primetime game was a thriller, and we were like, man, this is nice, right? We went on a heater, maybe 5 or 6 primetime games in a row where we were like, man, just banger after banger after banger, and you're like, man, this shit is nice. Then we hit a cold spell, and we really haven't had anything worth a damn. You had the Packers blanking the Saints on Monday Night Football. That was a snooze fest. The 2 games on Christmas were awful, right? This game was just nasty work. I mean, the Cowboys and the Buccaneers right now, along with the Chargers and Broncos, were the only 2 good games. And I mean, Chargers, Broncos, I don't even know if that qualifies because the Chargers were up substantially, and then the Broncos scored a late touchdown to make it intriguing, I guess. But they had the onside kick that they recovered and all that stuff. So that really wasn't a great game either. So really, Cowboys Bucks was the only really good, entertaining game that we've had on primetime in 2.5, maybe 3 weeks now. There have been a lot of primetime games, obviously, with Saturday jumping into the mix and, Thanksgiving it's Thanksgiving, Christmas and all of that stuff. So there's been a rough go of it here lately. And this game, this was the cherry on top of this very disgusting NFL cake that's been baked over the last 2.5 weeks or so. But yikes. I don't think that the Seahawks are a playoff team. I don't feel that way. They've played good football teams here of late, and they've shown their colors, right? Green Bay, Minnesota, and they couldn't get it done. And then you play Chicago, and this is the effort you put up. All right. I don't think they're worthy of a playoff spot, but we'll see. That's not for me to decide, right? So let's get to the comment section, see what you guys have to say. You guys know how this works, but in case you do not, use the hashtag LouieTLive to have your comment read on the air. If it is pertinent and time permits, we will get to your comment. Can't assure you if we're going to get to your comment if time permits, but it'll give you a shot, right? If you want to ensure that your comment is read, the way to do that is to super chat. Use the super chat function, and that will allow you to not only have your comment read and reacted to on the screen, but it also allows you to jump straight to the front of the line to ensure that no matter what, your comment will be addressed. So let's get to the comment section, see what you guys have to say. Start off with Joshua Farish. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Joshua writes, damn, kind of want to feel sorry for the Bears. On second thought, I don't. We literally gave them the Undertaker's gong and told them to rest in peace. Now, we said, rest in eternal peace. You got to roll your eyes in the back of your head, right? They got everything that they deserved. Bears fans were nasty, man. I mean, the shit they were saying and the things that they were doing, I've never seen a fan base silenced all at once, never to return again. Like this, that was the ultimate death blow that we gave them. And the thing that's so hilarious now is that it's universally known that we put their season to rest. Anytime it's a primetime game and you're talking about the Bears, the first thing they say is they haven't been the same since that Hail Mary. One play sent them into a tizzy, and they never recovered. And we asked to put them out of their – we asked to do that to them. We didn't think we were going to, but we literally ended their season, and I can't think of a better fan base that it could happen to. Boy, have they gone very quiet and meekly into the night. They went from being the loudest non-division rival team fan base to be talking shit to crickets. I ain't heard from Adam Rank, stupid dumbass. I ain't heard shit from his dumbass since that whole ordeal. Since he was we watched that game and Caleb Williams was clearly the better quarterback. I ain't heard shit from his stupid ass since then. And I'm pretty sure he's still talking some dumbass shit on his podcast. I don't care to listen, but it ain't showed up on my timeline. That's for damn sure, right? I ain't heard nothing from no more dumbass Bears fans talking about F. Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams is better than Jay. I ain't heard none of that shit. They've been awfully quiet. It feels good. I'm not going to lie to you. And I don't feel bad at all for the Bears. Fans, Caleb Williams, none of it. Don't feel bad. Don't feel bad. And again, I got nothing against Caleb Williams. I think the kid is super talented, and I think he's going to be good when it's all said and done. I can't wait for him to get good, stable coaching in Chicago. He's got some shit to tighten up on, but I think there's so much potential for him to be one of the best young quarterbacks in the NFL if he just gets the right coaching staff in there. They got a hell of a search on their hands because they got to get this shit right. Because if you want to destroy Caleb Williams, F this coaching search up. Get the wrong guy in there, and you'll destroy Caleb Williams. And you'll be right back in the draft in 3 more years looking for another damn quarterback. Get this shit wrong if you're the Bears and see what happens. This is a big-ass deal because this could go one of two ways. One of two ways. I don't feel bad at all, Joshua. I can't tell you how to feel. I don't feel bad at all. At all. Swaggy P, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Swaggy P writes, this game was worse than the Thursday night game between the Commanders versus Bears in 2022. At least there was a touchdown scored in that game, right? At least there was a touchdown scored. At least that game came down to the final play of the game with Darnell Mooney not being able to make the catch cleanly and having the ball on the other side of the goal line when he was pushed out of bounds and the Commanders preserving the victory. At least there was some late game dramatics, right? At least there was an actual touchdown scored in that game. Yeah, this game was terrible, man. This game was absolutely ass-tastic. And doesn't it feel ironic that every time the Bears play at home on Thursday night, this is the kind of product that we get? Because that game that you're talking about with Carson Wentz starting and who in the hell finished that game? Was it Heineke that finished that game? Must have been. It had to be Heineke that finished that game. That was the Bears at home on a Thursday night. Yeah, this game was way worse than that, without question. This is up there with that. So I'll tell you 2 of the worst primetime games I've watched in the last 5 years. And you might could even extend it out even further. But this game right here, and who could forget that gem of a game we got between the Russell Wilson-led Denver Broncos and the Matt Ryan-led Indianapolis Colts. Remember that game? And then that shit had the audacity to go into overtime. That one was a beaut. What'd that shit end up? 14-11, I believe. I think it was 14-11. I think. What'd that shit end up? I don't know. That game was horrendous. Horrendous. And then it went to overtime. I think it was 14-11. I think it went to overtime 11. First of all, I've never seen 2 teams tied at 11 before. How do you even do that? How do you tie at 11 in the NFL? Somehow those 2 teams managed to do that. Unbelievable. You can't make this shit up. There were more points scored in that game, Broncos, Colts, but I think that had to be the worst game. And then they pried our eyes open, right? They took our eyelids and they put toothpicks in between both our top and bottom eyelids, right? So we couldn't shut them. And they forced us to watch overtime. At least this game, I was like, please do not get in the field goal range for Cairo Santos. I do not want any more of this. No mas. No mas. Right? I'm good at 6-3. Okay. I was like, please Don't let them get in the field goal range for Cairo Santos, please. He says, just awful and dysfunctional all the way around except the defenses. I mean, did you see the late game execution between the two teams? You know, even the officials were like, should we let this be a touchdown, this fumble return? Like, yeah, let's let it be a touchdown. And then New York was like, nah, it ain't a touchdown. He down. But that was a weird sequence of events, right? Ugh. Yeah, this was rough. Video channel. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, Lou, video channel. Why doesn't the league have scheduled bye weeks for teams leading up to Thursday night football? That would rest and prep and give a chance to have better games. Because you can't bake in a bye week every time a team. It's the same thing with playing over in London. You can't give every team. Well, actually, they give them the opportunity. They give them the choice. Do you want your bye week right after you play in London, or do you want to just keep playing and get your bye week another time? They usually give them an opportunity, and you can pick and choose what you want to do, but not every team that plays over in London or overseas can have a bye week the following week. It's not feasible. Just like every team that plays on Thursday night football can't have a bye week. It's not feasible. So, I mean, it is what it is. You know, the product is what it is. I will say this. I truly believe that the reason we got such a shoddy product on Christmas yesterday was because those 4 teams literally just played on Saturday. And that for those teams, it was 3 games in 11 days. For those 4 teams, excuse me. 3 games in 11 days. They played on Sunday, they turned around, they played on Saturday, and then they turned around and played on Wednesday. That's a lot on their bodies. And I get it. The Ravens and the Chiefs both played in those same contests, right? And they put the same 4 teams that played on Saturday, again, playing on Wednesday to make it, even. But it doesn't change the fact that not everybody is equipped to handle that. I think that's why you got the product that you ultimately got. But it is what it is. It is what it is. Juan Gotti Talking Sports. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Juan Gotti Talking Sports writes, is it time to hold Stroud accountable? Is he broken? No, you can't say that after. Like, he had a really good rookie season, one of the best rookie seasons we've ever seen. They went all in. They pushed the chips to the center of the table. And he was playing really well before the injury set in, right? Nico Collins was set to lead the league in receiving and touchdown grabs and all of that good stuff. And then slowly but surely, the talent that they surrounded him with was picked away at. First, they took Nico Collins from him with a hamstring. While Nico was nursing the hamstring, they took Stephon Diggs from him. Nico comes back, right? They bottomed out losing to the Jets on a Thursday night without Nico Collins, without Stephon Diggs, right? With all these bums, Hutchinson and all these dudes we ain't never heard of out there getting run, right? So they finally get Nico back, and they're trying to, get their act back together. And then just like that, he loses Tank Dell, right? So it's been a transition for him. Look, I'm not going to sit here and make a ton of excuses for CJ. He hasn't played up to the standard that he set last year. But he's still been good at times. And at the end of the day, it's up to CJ to figure out what he has to do to kind of counteract some of the things, because he's not a runner. Like, this is why when somebody had asked me, I think my buddy had asked me, after week 3, after week 2 or 3 of the regular season this year, if I would take Jaden Daniels over CJ Stroud, I'm like, you damn right I would. And this wasn't me being biased. I'm just saying the element of Jaden's legs change everything. CJ Stroud is not a runner. He can run, but that's not his strong suit. He doesn't want to run. And he's not a tremendous athlete. He's a solid athlete. He doesn't have 2 left feet back there, but he ain't really trying to run nowhere. It's not that much different from Michael Penix Jr. Michael Penix Jr. actually can run, though. He can actually run. He just don't want to run. CJ Stroud really can't run at that type of level. He can move, but he's one of those dudes that rather stay in the pocket and try to make something happen from there, and he'll mess around and make a mistake instead of just using his legs. So, yes, you should hold CJ Stroud accountable. He's making mistakes, and some of these mistakes are avoidable. But to say he's broken, no, I wouldn't go that far to say he's broken. Yeah. If you're super talented, then there's always a chance that you can get back to the level that we've seen you play at. And you've shown us that you can play at that level for a full season. Then there's always a chance you can get back to that. So no. But I don't see the Texans doing anything this year with all the injuries that they have. And with the way they're set up right now, they're cooked. They look like first round food. And whoever the 5 seed is in the AFC, they should go to Houston and win. That's what it feels like right now. So whether that's the Pittsburgh Steelers or it ends up being, the Chargers, whomever that ends up being, somebody's going to have a chance to eat good in the neighborhood in week 1 of in wild card weekend. If you handle business the way you're supposed to. Because the Texans look like first-round food. Juan Gotti talking sports. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy. Juan G writes, so Nick was upset because Ertz slapped his hand too hard, and he told Ertz he only had 1 catch, and Ertz got in his face. Thoughts on clown Nick Sirianni? If that's how that transpired, then both dudes are accountable for that whole situation going sideways. Because if he slapped your hand too hard, like really your response if somebody slaps your hand too hard is that's why you only had 1 catch? Like, how petty are you? What are you, 8 years old? Like, what are we doing here, right? And if that's what he said to him, and I don't know, Nick Sirianni, like I said, this dude is he's a piece of work. So I don't know how that was phrased, because it had to be something more than just you only had 1 catch. Like if I'm Ertz, that's not gonna get me worked up enough to where I got to be held back. There had to be something else attached to that, like bitch, that's why you only had 1 catch or some shit like that. Okay, if you attached some type of word, derogatory, phrase or, connotation to that, now we got an issue. Now I can see why Ertz had to be held back. But if he just said, damn, that's why you only had 1 catch, like that ain't enough. That's me. I'll turn around and laugh and say, hey, that's why we just beat your ass and just keep it pushing, right? Like I don't need to turn it into something where I got to be held back by Big Dom, right? Like that's not how that's supposed to go. But clearly some things were said, and Zach didn't take too kindly to it. And at the end of the day, it went way further than it was probably supposed to go. But this is the problem. I think this is way bigger than that situation. This is like the 5th time in Nick Sirianni's career we're having a conversation about him doing something to someone or a fan and then having to apologize thereafter, which means he can't control himself when his emotions get the best of him. He can't control himself. He did it in Indianapolis. He did it in Kansas City. He did it at home with his own fans, and now he's doing it here with Zach Ertz. So he's got a problem. He's got a problem. So that's the bigger issue. But he ain't my coach, so I don't really give a shit. I like when guys are destructive for teams that I root against. He's a good coach to have in Philadelphia because clearly this is what we've seen from him. When shit doesn't go well, he isn't a guy that is able to mentally fix a situation that's going poorly. He's a point the finger type of guy. He places blame on others, clearly. So the key is put them in situations. We've seen him slam his headset, right? Before halftime when we played him back in 2022. Like, he can't control himself when he gets upset. When that shit was going south last year, he started firing coaches, taking away jobs and responsibilities. It was a shit show. He's a self-preservation guy. So I love that he's the Eagles head coach. He will be their demise. I can't see them winning anything of substance as long as he's their head coach. So I'm cool with it. Juan Gotti talking sports. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. My guy Juan G writes, I think Bryce can have a day. Thoughts or Carolina or on Carolina and Tampa Bay? Well, Bryce had a good day against them the last time those two teams locked horns just about a month ago when they should have beat them in regulation. But I don't think they're going to go to Tampa Bay and win. I don't. But I like the way Bryce is playing right now. And those boys are playing with confidence. And they're having fun again. It wouldn't shock me if they went there and won. It wouldn't. Because the last time I saw Tampa Bay at home, they were awful against the Raiders. If they were playing anybody but the Giants or the Raiders in Jacksonville, I think they would have lost that game. Even if they was playing the Titans and they caught Will Levis on the right day, or they had Mason Rudolph in, they would have lost that game. They played so poorly against the Raiders, but they playing the Raiders and they won the game. They can't play like that and expect to beat Carolina. They're going to have to play much better, and I expect them to play better. I will say this. The Buccaneers don't get great pressure on the quarterback. And so Bryce will have time to throw the football. And if they can somehow manage to just establish a semblance of a run game, that's the biggest problem, is you can't run against Tampa consistently. So if they can establish some sort of run game and keep Bryce out of those, long down and distances on third down in particular, they'll have a shot. Something else that really killed them in that first matchup is they couldn't stop the run. Carolina could not stop Bucky Irving. I think Bucky Irving had over 200 yards of total offense in that game. He had his career, I think he had 170-something yards rushing, and then had another probably 40 yards receiving, and then Rashad White, I think, had like 70, 80 yards rushing too. Like, they killed him on the ground. If they can at least stop the Bucs from having those big gains and those chunk plays on the ground, and they force Bake to beat them through the air, they might have a shot. They might have a shot. But I just don't see Tampa Bay losing to to Carolina. I don't. Juan Gotti talking sports. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Juan G writes, almost at 8K, slow grind better than no grind, right? Hell yeah. Every day, all day. Hell yeah. You'll get there. Keep grinding, bruh. He says, shout out to you and Ed for paving the way. Ed was the reason I started. Then I found LTN, man. I always just love when people, are inspired and they get out and they make it happen. You know how many people have asked for advice? I don't even really give it anymore because I've given, I used to give out a ton of game early on. And then I would see people not do anything with that game. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to just get them base level advice and see what they do with it. And if I see that they're actually willing to put in the work and they come back and they ask for more, then I'll give them the full shebang, right? But it's good to see people just not give up, because I think a lot of people think, seeing what we do is easy, and it's not. And I think that's what ultimately happens to people is they think, man, I could do that. And then they don't realize the amount of work it takes, and they get frustrated because they putting out videos and they getting 6 views, and 2 of them are their mama, their aunt, and their best friend, and a cousin, and that's their 4 views, right? And you keep putting out videos like that, and eventually you're like, man, why am I doing this? Because it doesn't show. Like, some people, they jump on and they pop quick, and shout out to them, because that wasn't the road I traveled. That slow grind you talking about, that was me all day. Still me to this day, right? So I know the feeling. Just keep grinding, bro. Keep grinding, Jack. Big shout out to you for continuing to push through. Because sometimes I know the feeling. It's some days where you like, man, why am I doing this? Because the numbers they're not going the way that you want them to. It ain't moving fast enough. But keep pushing, bro. Keep pushing. Juan Gotti talking sports. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, I started back in 19. What a nasty time to start. I mean, you couldn't have picked a worse season to start. That might have been why you started so slow, because generally you see it the other way around. People start in a season when things go well, right? That's what prompts them to get started, because they're so enthused by the team and their success. You came in at a year where we knew before the season started. It's not like 19 went off the rails. Like this Bears season, the Bears team 4-12 this year. They were on Hard Knocks. People forget they were on Hard Knocks this summer. We were talking about how well they built this team around Caleb and how good this defense was, and they went out and got all these weapons for Caleb. And oh my God, is this the best? We were arguing, is this the best situation a rookie quarterback has ever been placed in? That's the shit we were saying before the season started. People forget, because you look at their record, they 4-12, and they done been through the damn ringer, and you forget that that's the shit that we was on before the season started. We didn't know they were going to have this tumultuous season, and the shit was going to go off the rails. We knew before the 19 season that we were going to be one of the worst teams in football. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Jay Gruden was a dead coach walking. We knew it. And we looked at the first 5 games of the schedule, and we said, ain't no way in hell he win in any of these games. It was the Rams, the Patriots, the Giants. Like, it was teams, all good teams. We were like, ain't no way in hell he win in any of these games. And he didn't. And Patriots was his last game that year with Colt McCoy. Got smoked at home, and he got fired. We knew it. He was set up for failure. So how you could start in 19, bless your heart, man. Bless your heart. Bless your heart. Bloodshot Sports. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Bloodshot Sports writes, hey, I got 5 on it. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Boy, it's a blessing. It's a blessing. Juan Gotti talking sports. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Juan G writes, so Atlanta don't get no pressure. Giving 5 all day. Uh-oh. Yeah, they don't get pressure at all on the quarterback. So the key for us is going to be, I want to see us establish the run, though. Like, I don't want to put this on 5 and force him to have to do it all. And again, we don't know what type of day it's going to be because, again, Sunday, the forecast calls for rain. Now, will it call for rain up in the DMV area, up in Maryland? I don't know. But I know up this way, down in the 757, and I'm feeling like it's going to be all kind of East Coast based, supposed to be rain. So hopefully, again, it doesn't impact the game. I'm hoping it's not a wet, nasty, game, but we just need to establish a run again. I know that much. We need to establish the run again. But if 5 has to drop back and throw the football, I feel like he'll have opportunities against this Falcons defense. So Juan Gotti talking sports. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Juan G writes, any trash talk with the sis? How she feel about Michael Penix? Nah, we don't do that. We don't talk trash to each other. We keep it real cordial. I told her, take it easy on us, man. She was like, we need this one, bruh. Y'all don't need it. I said, we do need it. We trying to get in the playoffs just like you are. She's like, no, we need it. Y'all don't need it. Y'all can still win next week and get in. We need it. I'm like, nah, we need it. So we over here arguing over who needed the most, right? So that's where we at with ours right now. Both of us kind of arguing who needs it more. I'm like, neither one of us are talking any type of trash. She was never a Kirk Cousins fan. And, she can't stand Dan Quinn. So she probably wants to beat us really bad. She can't stand Dan Quinn or Kyle Shanahan. She blames Kyle more than she does Dan Quinn, but she can't stand Dan Quinn either. So it would be twice as nice for her if they could beat us and get that much closer to clinching a playoff spot, all the while not allowing Dan Quinn to clinch shit. But she's not a big fan of Kirk Cousins. She wasn't. And she kind of predicted that this would happen. I told her she was wrong. I'm like, all you needed was a quarterback. Kirk Cousins is a massive upgrade over what you had last year. But clearly that didn't go well. And so she was, like most of us, kind of flummoxed by the decision to draft Michael Penix, but she wasn't opposed to it because she didn't believe in Kirk Cousins. So she's happy that he's getting it. She had resigned to the fact that they weren't going anywhere this year until they benched Kirk Cousins. So she's back in the fight now. She had given up. She was already punting on this season. So she's been reinvigorated with Michael Penix being inserted into the lineup. So that's where she's at right now. Glizzy McGuire, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Glizzy writes, St. Booty Juice is going to sell our playoff hopes. Don't say that. I'm not thrilled with him having to be out there either. I get it. None of us wanted to see him on the field again. But remember, we got this far with Benjamin St. Juice being out on the field. I'm not telling you that that's the way you want to go. But we got the 7-2 with Benjamin St. Juice being one of our corners as a starter. Okay. We can get to the playoffs with Benjamin St. Juice out there. It's not going to be easy. He's going to make it a lot tougher on us. That's for sure. But we can survive. And we will. And we will. But surviving and thriving is two different things. Don't know if you'll be allowed to thrive with Benjamin St. Juice on the field. But can you survive? Yeah, we've done it. We've done it, and we can do it again. So, Abel Ambrosio, my guy, Double A. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy writes, first Vic got a head coaching gig. Now D-Jack's got a head coaching spot. Me and my wife were talking about that today. I said that this is a trend. This is a new trend that we're seeing with former athletes or former, NFL players that were pretty prolific in the sport. Like, it used to be where if you're a really significant player, you look to get in the booth, right? You look to get in the booth. You've never seen since the 70s. Like, you've never seen a Hall of Fame player become a head coach. They don't do that. Hall of Fame players don't do that. It's always the backup quarterback, the guy that barely made it to an NFL roster. Those are the dudes that end up being head coaches. You'll get some guys like DeMeco Ryans, who was a really good player in the league, that played a good career. And every now and again, you'll get guys like that. Antonio Pierce is another one, right? Defensive guy. But generally speaking, it's usually the backup quarterback, the guys that couldn't quite cut it in the league, that end up being really good head coaches. They know the game, they just weren't good enough to play at a high level, which is fine, right? But generally, the really good players don't want to be coaches because it's hard for them to see the game through the lens of someone who doesn't have the talent that they have. In their mind, why can't you just do this, right? Because that's what I could do. But everybody isn't blessed with the talents that you were. So it's hard for them to be coaches. But what we're seeing now is a lot of these players want to get back into the game. They want to pour into these kids, and they want to have an impact, but they don't want to put in the work. Ain't nobody trying to be a quality control assistant. Ain't nobody trying to be, on the lower rungs of. Look, I used to be a Pro Bowl player, all-pro player. I'm not going to be somebody's flunky as a coach. I'm not getting it out the mud. So what is the only way that you can have an impact as a coach, but not have to go be at somebody's D2, D3 program? And I was telling my wife, I said, go to a HBCU. And Deion Sanders and Eddie George, to me, were the first two dudes to really crack the code on that. Think about it. Eddie George, borderline Hall of Fame player in his NFL career, right? Really good player. Deion Sanders, Hall of Fame player. One of the best to ever do it. Deion wanted to coach at Florida State, his alma mater. They didn't think he was good enough. So they gave the job to Andrew Norvell. Again, Deion had coaching experience at a lower level. And it's not like he just tried to jump in. We had never done it at that level before. So they were very skeptical, and it may be rightfully so. So that Deion said, you know what? Okay, fine. I'm going to go to Jackson State. Go to this HBCU, get my weight up, take that program, turn it around, take it to new heights, and then I'm going to use that as a platform to get me into one of these Power 5 schools. And Colorado was the first one to come knocking, and he obliged, and look at what he's done for that program already, right? And so that's the path guys see, right? So you got Eddie George at Tennessee State doing what he's doing. And now you see all these players like, you know what? I could do that. Well, I can't go. Like for Vic at Norfolk State, I understand why he did that. He's never coached before at any level. So it's a little like, we'll see how he does. But guess what? This is more about him going home. He's got a chance to take a downtrodden franchise or a university, and just off of his mere presence being a coach, he's going to give them juice. I don't know if it's going to turn to wins. I don't know how he's going to recruit. I don't know if guys are going to want to come to Norfolk State just off the strength of Michael Vick. But the talent that is at home, it's a lot of talent in 757. A lot of that talent is going to stay home if Mike Vick come knocking and he built the right kind of staff. But still got to go out and coach, and we got to see what that looks like. But I get what Vic is doing. D-Jax, not too sure. Like Eddie George played most of his career in Houston, in that Tennessee area. So he was beloved there. I understand. That's where his home is, in Tennessee. I get why he wanted to coach at Tennessee State. I understand why Michael Vick wants to coach at Norfolk State. why does Djax want to go to Delaware State? Like, there's no ties. He's a West Coast kid. He didn't go to Delaware State. There's no ties there. He just wants to coach. And that's okay, too. We'll see how he does. But he don't have no coaching experience. So we'll see how it goes. But I said all of that to say this. HBCU is the only way you're going to get a chance to coach at a Division I program, essentially, without any experience. Where else are you going to go? Like, if you don't want to coach D2, D3, where else are you going to go and have an opportunity to coach D1 football without any experience coaching? You're not getting an opportunity to do that anywhere else. So that's why you're seeing a lot of these guys flock to these HBCUs. Hopefully they're successful. We'll see what happens. One guy to talking sports. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy Juan G writes, used to love the NBA. What the hell happened, Lou? Shaking my head. I mean, it's still a good product. So here's the problem. They're not marketing their young stars well right now. They're holding on. Like, at some point, the NBA had to start marketing Michael Jordan because for so long it was Bird and Magic and they carried the league. But at some point, you had to turn to Michael and say, all right, the torch is yours. We passing this shit to you. Take care of it and make sure the league stays in good hands. It took them a while to get to that point. Took them a while. But once they did, they were in really good hands until Mike retired. But even then, the league was still in a good place. But I think where the struggle is right now with the NBA is they wanted Ja to be that guy. And then Ja did what he did. And they don't really have a star that they can, like, put out in the forefront, take over the league. And while there's some really good players like Jason Tatum and Anthony Edwards and guys like that, they don't have the star power like a Ja. You know, they don't have the shoe, the big time signature shoe with that super popular to match. And you gotta win too. And so there's a lot that goes into that. I think another big issue. So they're holding on to LeBron and Steph because of that. Like, two teams middling, barely in the playoff picture right now. That's what they're hanging their hat on. That one of them will figure it out and end up being solid. And neither one of those teams might make the playoffs this year. The West is pure hell. But that's what they're hanging on to. And at some point, they got to pass the torch to one of these young fellas. But another big problem is some of your best players in the NBA, a lot of your best, aren't even U.S. born. They're foreign guys. SGA is Canadian. Joker is from wherever the hell he's from. I don't even know. I think he's from, is he Ukrainian? He may be Ukrainian. I don't know where the hell he's from. But Serbian, I think he's Serbian. Right? Luka is, the hell is Luka? What national team did he play for? German. He's German, right? Is he German? I think he's German. I don't remember what team he played for. Slovenia. I think he's Slovenian or some shit like that. My point is, none of these dudes are from the U.S. These are some of your best players in the league. Giannis is from Greece, right? So these are the top 10 guys in the NBA. Joker and Giannis and Luka and SGA. These are all top 10 players. None of them are U.S. born. So it's hard to resonate. It's the same thing that kind of happened with boxing, the heavyweight division in particular. Like, it's hard for Americans to get behind a product and they don't have anybody they can attach themselves to. So yeah, that's kind of where the NBA is right now. They're having a hard time marketing stars because a lot of their best players are not from the US. So yeah, it's tough. They'll figure it out though. It's still a good product, but they just got some work to do, right? But they're struggling like with the All-Star game, trying to make it relevant. They're doing all this shit. A lot of people don't love the fact that a lot of threes are being shot now, and that's a big part of the game. And so, yeah, and it's a lot. Like, some people aren't a fan of the way the game's being played right now. So it's a lot, but they'll figure it out. Anyway, I digress. We went way off subject. We turned this damn near into a podcast episode. But that's what happens when the game we watched tonight was 6-3. We talk about everything but the damn game, and rightfully so. The game was trash. So Seattle, most importantly, just like we talked about with that Rams 49ers game, yeah, it wasn't pretty aesthetically, but the end result was a win for Seattle. And they're 9-7. And they have a shot. Need some help. Never want to be in that position this late in the season where you need somebody else to do something for you to get you where you need to be. But they had their chance. They were 8-5, leading the division, and they didn't get it done. They didn't get it done. So now they sit and they wait. They did their thing. Now they got to have Arizona do theirs. And if they can get it done, they'll have a shot in week 18 against the Rams. For the Bears, that's 10 straight losses after starting the season 4-2. Yikes. Yikes. It was bad. And those Bears fans were going through it. And all I could do was give out that Grinch smile. All I could do was give out the Grinch smile. Anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on Thursday Night Football Overtime. Seahawks best the Bears 6-3 in one of the worst played games of the year. How many wide receiver screens did we see tonight? Man, there had to be at least 5 on each side. At least. There were a total of 33 completions by the two quarterbacks. Less than 300 yards total passing by the two quarterbacks. Of those 33 completions, I'm going to guess at least 10 of them, a third of them, so 11 of them were bubble screens. So some type of wide receiver screen. A third of them. Yikes. Yeah, it was rough tonight. It was rough tonight on both sides. But Caleb Williams had his streak broken there. At least there was one thing that he had going for him. No interceptions thrown against NFC opponents this season. He had 385 attempts that he had not thrown an interception in. And remember, he started out rough with the interceptions. And then he just stopped throwing them. And he hadn't thrown any against any NFC opponents. Well, that's gone too. Anyway, I digress. Yeah. Hey, somebody had to win. Seattle got it done. Let me give a quick shout out to BetUS for sponsoring this stream. Again, head over to betus.com and use the promo code YouTube 150 to get you 150% sign-up bonus on your first deposit up to $2,000 and 125% sign-up bonus on your next 2 deposits up to $2,000 when you use the promo code YouTube 150. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on Thursday Night Football Overtime. Seahawks get the win 6-3 over the Bears, improve to 9-7. Now they sit and wait for the outcome of Rams Cardinals on Saturday night. If the Cardinals can win that game, it will force a tie between the two teams going into their Week 18 matchup where the Rams and Seahawks would do battle for the right to call themselves NFC West champions and earn a spot in the postseason. Loser goes home, winner wins the division. If the Rams can take care of business on Saturday night at home versus Arizona, they will crown themselves the NFC West champions, and Seattle's season effectively will be done in terms of postseason play. So a lot hanging in the balance on Saturday for that particular matchup, and we'll see what ultimately happens. But that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T. Until next time, you guys have a good one. Take care. God bless, and good night.